Hi, I'm Dr. Janni Lloyd. The following is a vision of a healthy life extension, physically immortal world. It's also part 2 of my submission to the Immortality Project at the University of California. At this point, I would like you to take a few minutes to visualize or imagine for yourself what it would be like to be physically immortal. Close your eyes and see yourself vibrantly healthy and physically immortal. At least 60% of the people in your community are also physically immortal. What does it feel like? What changes do you sense within the community? When we do this exercise in my seminars, people report feeling a deep peace and joy. They are free from fear and tension. They can relax completely. The peace envisioned is not dull, boring peace, but dynamic peace, full of excitement, creativity, and fun. What I see for the individual is a move away from struggle into flow and ease, connecting fully with their own truth, direction, and creativity, allowing themselves to be fully in their joy and supporting others to do the same, loving themselves and others unconditionally. Ongoing health requires all of this to occur. What do I envision for the community? More time to play, be creative, play sport, sing, dance, be entertained. This trend has already begun in Western countries over the last 40 years. Ben Bover, in his book Immortality, makes this comment, quote, "Will an ageing but still vigorous population create demands for new jobs? In states where large numbers of retirees live today, the entertainment, travel and sports industries are booming. Florida and Arizona, for example, boast more golf courses than hospitals. An ageing population does not automatically mean an economic slowdown. Instead, it means a different mix of business opportunities and jobs." End quote. Can you imagine the money that could be redirected if people stopped getting sick and incapacitated? To give you an idea, here's Ben Bover again with some figures from America. Quote, "The Alliance for Aging Research has estimated that if people over 65 could remain healthy and active, the nation would save some $5 billion per month in government and private spending for healthcare for the elderly." End quote. Moving into a space of loving ourselves and others unconditionally will mean less money spent on defence weapons. When I was marching for peace in the early 1980s, it was estimated that the amount of money being spent on nuclear arms was $1 million per minute. This money could be redirected to help educate and feed people in developing countries. The world would be transformed. Herb Bowie, in his book Why Die? A Beginner's Guide to Living Forever, commences his book with his vision for immortality in the 21st century. Here's some passages. Quote, 2021, population growth stabilises. People who had been worried about overpopulation by now realise that their fears had been misplaced. Although birth rates remained high in the diminishing number of relatively poor countries, they continued to decline in the richer countries and especially among the lifers. These declining birth rates more than made up for the decrease in death rates. It is not that these longer-lived people lost any interest in children. On the contrary, they seem to enjoy them more than ever. At the same time, the immortality groups offered a new social structure that allowed fewer children to be enjoyed by more people and allowed them to be shared across traditional family boundaries. The declining birth rates also seem to be caused by other, more subtle factors. As children's lives lengthened and the prospect of living even longer became more real, they seemed less driven to achieve immortality through their offspring. The adult lifers were more childlike themselves and seemed to rely less on the presence of children for that quality of joy so often associated with childhood. 2027. Work lives changed dramatically. Widespread changes had taken place in people's working lives. Fears of a huge population of retired senior citizens utterly depleting their various pensions and retirement funds had proven ironically unfounded. Research, in fact, had confirmed many people's suspicions that retirement was inherently incompatible with radical life extension. 2048. Global environment improves. These technological advances were some of the factors contributing to a gradual turnaround of the environmental decline that had plagued the world since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. A more immediate cause, though, was the increased motivation of the voting population to do something about these problems. The simple truth was that asking people to save the earth for future generations had never worked very well. Now that people were concerned with saving it for themselves, they focused on the issues at hand with insistence. The United Nations in this year announced that for the first time since they began tracking the relevant statistics, the Earth's environment had actually improved over the past year. The hard work was not over, but the world had turned the corner. 2062, a new world order. Scientists had firmly established that emotions of human suppression, prejudice and hostility were life-threatening for the subjects as well as the object of these feelings. This realisation had gradually replaced strong feelings of racism, nationalism and separatism with an expanding acceptance of all human beings as fellow citizens of the world. It was in this year that all the countries of the world turned their national defence systems over to the control of the United Nations, to be used for peacekeeping missions only." End quote. Will we be building a heaven on earth with this vision? I feel we will. Ben Bova says, quote, "In the Sermon on the Mount, Christ exhorts the multitude, 'Be ye perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect.' Matthew 5:48. Might we dare to interpret this as a command to become the best we can, not only morally, but physically, mentally, emotionally? Might not Christ be telling us that we are expected to build heaven here on earth, to reach for perfection here and now? Might not heaven be a place and a time that we build for ourselves, the way an eager, intelligent child builds a sandcastle on the beach under the watchful eye of his protective father?" End quote. Robert Kuhn, in his book The Science of Lasting Life, says, quote, "During this millennium, heaven on earth shall be created. Death shall be abolished from the human race. The millennium is the culmination and result of all spiritual endeavours from every culture and time. How long will it take for paradise to be established within this millennium? As soon as now or as long as 2,000 years? The rapidity with which pain, suffering and death are abolished and universal joyous immortality established is directly dependent on how fast and effectively the science and art of everlasting life is communicated to all beings." End quote. Hold the vision whilst embracing love and cooperation now. In part 3 of my submission, I will explore more around the philosophy of physical immortality and some techniques that I feel have enhanced my life force.